Thank all of you for being here today. My name's Tony Strickland. I'm mayor of Huntington Beach. With us today, City Attorney Michael Gates and Mayor Pro Tem Gracie Vandermark. Today, the City of Huntington Beach has filed a major lawsuit in federal court against the state of California, HCD, and other the state's regional housing needs allocation laws that have mandated that the City of Huntington Beach plan for 13,368 units of high-density housing in just the next few years. To put this in perspective, if the city actually built 13,368 units at 20% inclusionary rate, which is what HCD recommends, the city would nearly double in size in the next few years. Earlier this year, the state independent auditor found that HCD's method for making these RHNA determinations was flawed and not supported by evidence. This is a massive blow to the integrity of the state RHNA laws and the state RHNA process, and to the governor's claim that RHNA must be zoned for cities as a matter of statewide concern. In addition to the fact that approximately 95% of the state's population resides in only 5% of the state's territory, and that the state has advanced no incentives to develop housing in the underdeveloped 95% of the state's territories, also undermines the governor's claim about how these RHNA laws and his mandates advance statewide housing concern. In addition, governor and his legislative buddies carved out certain regions of the state, like his hometown of Marin County, which is allowed as a matter of law to skirt the same RHNA law requirements that are now being imposed on Huntington Beach and other cities, is over 95% already fully developed. So any new housing means redevelopment for Huntington Beach, while other cities with massive swaths of underdeveloped land will remain underdeveloped. While the state's agenda is to cram 1 million units of housing, far less than 5% of the state's territory, we know that neither the state nor Gavin Newsom are serious about actually producing more housing. Their goal is just to urbanize quiet private property owning communities. This lawsuit filed by our city attorney today is the first major step in taking the governor and the state to task over their faulty narratives about housing and their unconstitutional legislative and administrative means of stripping charter cities of their ability to make their own decisions. Huntington Beach, as a charter city, will stand on its constitutional rights under Article 11 of the California Constitution and defend itself from the state's overreach. I am committed to defend the city and its wonderful property owners who enjoy this quiet suburban beach town. Next to give a speech, some comments, is Councilman Casey McKeon.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sure you guys saw the comments from Governor Gavin Newsom and Dave Min excoriating us for not living up to our responsibility to deliver housing. And I found Dave Min's quote especially interesting, as after doing a little research, it turns out that a certain Senate Bill 106 was sneakily passed in 2017 as part of a budget trailer appropriation bill and codified into the government code, which, as Tony touched on, carved out favored portions of the state to be exempt from the very same housing laws, including the affordable housing high density mandates that are imposed on Huntington Beach. And did you know that because of Senate Bill 106, Marin County is enjoying a moratorium on affordable housing building requirements? 28, right? The housing crisis be a matter of statewide concern, which allows them to preempt and violate our home rule doctrine protections as a charter city when Marin County is exempt from affordable housing building requirements. Obviously, the legislature has proven that this is not a matter of statewide concern, and I find that very interesting. Thank you.
Michael Gates, City Attorney. I'm happy to be here. Thank you all for coming out today. I don't have a prepared speech, although I am on hand for questions if you have any. I will say that it's unique and it's unlike anything that we've seen before. This is not your typical state challenge. It's in federal court. It alleges a number of violations, constitutional violations, First Amendment, separation of powers, due process, and so on, in addition to the California Constitution arguments that Mayor just mentioned. So the town that I grew up in, my hometown, is a real honor, and I just want to thank the City Council, the Mayor, and the Mayor Pro Tem challenging the state. If the state is left unchecked, ladies and gentlemen, then quite frankly, the state will be micromanaging and making every local zoning decision, especially in California, under our California Constitution, to make its own determinations on land use. And that's a constitutional provision that supersedes state legislation. So all of these housing laws are subject to challenge on that basis. And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi. With the state stuff in consideration, what will be the process of any ADUs and application? Will they be processed?
Being processed currently today. The applications are being accepted today. Nothing but the grandstanding from the governor today. We have a meeting on the 21st, and we'll move forward on doing what we call the minimum and the outlay. We have a two-prong approach. As we're suing the governor for the overreach, we're also doing the minimum that the state requires while we're doing this lawsuit.
The minimum being?
The minimum numbers of the housing to zone for those. And we're working towards that, and we'll actually have that city council meeting on the 21st, so we'd love for you to come out and watch that hearing. Next question.
Jeff Collins from the Orange County Register of Suffolk County. Question for Councilmember McKeon. You mentioned the passage of SB 106 in 2017.
Yes, sir.
Implying that Governor Newsom had something to do with
To do with it, I find it from the very same affordable housing development requirements. They have a moratorium. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
on Tuesday night.
Yes.
The city council voted to stop accepting ADU permits unless, stop accepting ADU applications unless they complied already with pre-existing Huntington Beach zoning laws. Is there a change?
No, currently in clarification in terms of what we reported out from closed session as well, currently the city of Huntington Beach is accepting all applications coming in, and we're moving forward on the applications that are already here.
Is that a change from the city?
It's where the process is currently, and then we'll have another follow-up meeting to resolve the ADU issue on the 21st.
But was there not a vote to reject?
Yeah, go ahead.
Postpone for 2 weeks?
Maybe the city attorney can follow up.
Yeah,
A vote to postpone for 2 weeks the
No.
Councilmember Kalnick's motion.
So here's where we are on the ADU, SB 9, SB 10 issue. In part, this is going to respond to the Attorney General and the Governor's press conference today. The city has not resolved the issue finally. It has been publicly noticed now for days that this very issue of processing applications under those laws will be brought to the council meeting on the 21st. It's not resolved. We're in mid-stride, and while the city's in mid-stride, the state is threatening housing laws. Then we have 30 days from the February 22nd letter from or respond. That time has not occurred, and so therefore the conflict is not ripe for a lawsuit in the first place. That's if the state's going to follow the housing laws that dictate the timetable. So in my view, the whole press conference today was a non-issue. It was a bunch of bluster, and wait another week and a half until the resolution have been talking about.
If you don't mind, I would like to answer the question about the governor not being the governor with Marin County being exempt. Forward, proactively, to ask Marin County to move forward on these low counties. And he knows his hometown is exempt. While criticizing Huntington Beach, he's not doing anything about his hometown and bringing affordable housing to his hometown.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Describe the homeless situation.
We're working hard. It's one of our top priorities to work on the homeless situation. The homeless situation touches every person in our city, our businesses. We need to do what we can, and hopefully the state does a little bit more in terms of mental health. You know, a lot of the homeless are a result of mental health, and a lot of the mental health programs have been defunded. And we need to do what we can to work on a county, state, federal, and local level. But the county is really the ones that are responsible on when it comes to homelessness. But what we're doing here in the city is working as hard as we can to make sure we get the homeless off the street and help the homeless get away from homelessness and out of that situation, but also make sure that we clean up for our parks, our streets, and our businesses.
How many people do you have here that we're talking about? How big is your homeless?
It's a little, the population's a little over 300, but I want to touch on the issue of affordable housing and homeless real quick. I've been in office since 2014. I've seen firsthand here at the city of Huntington Beach, in City Hall and with the previous city councils, Huntington Beach, for the record, has done more for affordable housing and addressing homelessness than any other neighboring city in our jurisdiction, in our region. As an example, in the 5th planning cycle, which was the cycle before this one, the 6th one, Huntington Beach was absorbed 1,353 RHNA units, affordable housing units, into our zoning and to plan for future development. Our neighboring cities, their RHNA requirement was single digits, yet we had 1,353. And Huntington Beach worked with HCD and worked with the state then to make this all happen. The governor mentioned today that the city lost a lawsuit in 2019 on housing from the state versus Huntington Beach in 2019. Categorically not true. They did file a lawsuit at the very same time that SB2 funds became available to help cities help with homelessness. Guess what happened in 2019? The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal decided the Boise case. The Boise case basically said that cities have to take responsibility for providing beds if we're going to enforce anti-camping ordinances. So what did Huntington Beach do in the face of the Ninth Circuit opinion? It wanted to become SB2 funding eligible so that we could qualify for the funds and bring the funds back to Huntington Beach to help address the homelessness issue. And what did we do with those funds? Nearly $1 million. We invested in a homeless shelter. So this whole narrative that the governor's espousing or spouting, that Huntington Beach is being irresponsible and that we're not dealing with the problems, quite frankly, stacked up against all of our neighbors here in the region, we're doing far more for homelessness and affordable housing, I think, than any other city in the region. So that narrative's got to stop.
The previous city council did that.
Can I ask a question about the litigation?
Anything at all for the builder's remedy ordinance? Is that something that's very much going to remain in place in light of this threat, or is it something the city's going to look at again? What's sort of the staff or thinking around that?
She had a question. Yeah, maybe a quick answer on that.
Yeah, we're moving forward on builder's remedy. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, I'm just a little confused right now. You're saying that, are you confirming that the city is following the current state housing laws while challenging them in federal court, or is the city not following the state housing laws?
No, we're following the state housing laws. Well, it's a two-pronged process. We believe that the state's overreached in terms of the demand, and we're taking that to court. And in the meantime, we're following the state housing laws. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and I want to make an important distinction. The city's always been a good steward and always attempted to advance development and housing. But it's done so using RHNA and HCD, those as benchmarks, not as state mandates. The city has always believed, and it has always had, its charter city local authority to make its own determinations, regardless of what HCD says. In fact, just years ago, when we were talking about updating our zoning, the 1,353 units, the state law never even contemplated that charter cities would have a mandate and putting forth its best efforts. So I just want to make a distinction. I don't want there to be any confusion. The city does not believe that it is mandated by the page lawsuits all about, that the supposed RHNA mandates brought down by the state to Huntington Beach are not mandates at all, because those numbers from HCD, an administrative agency, cannot have preemptive power over the city's charter city home rule authority. So I just want to make that clear.
I have a question. You said you have 300 homes.
And just for the
Go ahead.
city insurance. Thank you. You talked earlier about the uniqueness of this particular lawsuit. What makes it unique?
Well, the fact that it's a federal court action, the causes of actions are grounded in federal law, First Amendment, separation of powers, due process violations, things of that nature. So it's the way in which the case is presented. We're actually invoking the U.S. Constitution for a number of the violations. And I'm glad you asked. We actually have somebody here from my office who has copies of the complaint. So if any of you at the end of this actually want a physical copy, we will be happy to supply you with one. Thank you.
I had a question. You said you had 300 homeless in the city. Do you have enough beds for all those people already?
The current Navigation Center has 175 beds, and then there's some additional housing in other areas of the city. So not for every single homeless that we know of, no.
What's been the mayor's response to all, I mean, the governor's response to all this when you brought it up? Has there been side talks, I'm sure?
You know, every time that we try to express either to HCD or the AG or another state agent what we've been doing to show that we've been good stewards, it's just been basically ignored. It's a very dismissive attitude coming from Sacramento. They don't want to take it seriously.
Well, and if I might, as someone who actually did serve, I served in the Assembly and the Senate in my background. Look, what's been happening over the last 10, 15 years is really not an accident. It's the goal of a lot of the policymakers in Sacramento want to urbanize California. There's a reason, by the way, that you have the highest gas tax in the country. You have the highest car registration fee in the country. They're trying to move suburban communities into urban communities to try to get people out of cars. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with urban communities. Like, if you want to live in an urban community, you can move to Los Angeles, you can move to San Francisco. Coming out of college, I almost moved to New York City. There's nothing wrong with urban communities. But our citizens in Huntington Beach want to live in a suburban community, coastal community that it is. They don't want this to turn into an LA or San Francisco. Otherwise, they would have moved to LA or San Francisco.
What's the current status on the city's housing elements? And is the city ready to or prepared to possibly funding?
Yeah, on the 21st, we're going to be dealing with that. So please come to our hearing on the 21st.
The HCD director suggested today that the ADU issue might actually delay certifying the housing element. Is that true?
Well, again, we're going to be dealing with the ADU situation. We're in midstream on the ADU situation. So all that will be resolved on the 21st. Please come on the 21st.
Can you talk in broad terms about your vision for the city? I mean, you said that these 13,000 units would double the population. It would make it highly urban. That's not what you want.
Yeah, it's built up, highly urban. Like,
what is this?
For example, I'm already getting calls about over traffic on Beach Boulevard, Edinger, on Golden West. You know as well as I do, all of you know, and again, I've been in Sacramento. They want a mandate, but are they going to follow up with the mandate with the dollars coming from the state to fill in of what we need? Currently, I would encourage Governor Newsom to fix California before he starts going down on Huntington Beach. Currently, we have a big deficit. We have an energy crisis, a water crisis, a transportation crisis, and now he wants us to do this. You know those dollars aren't going to help us with the infrastructure that we need to do if we actually follow the RHNA numbers. And so let's face it, all of you know that. All of you know that we're not going to get the money to double in size from the state of California. And I encourage him to fix California and all the crises and the shambles he left as mayor of San Francisco. He's turning it to fix California, fix the crisis in California. In terms of me as mayor, look, I'm for housing. Let's be clear. But I think our predecessors did a good job at building out the city into the suburban community, coastal community that it is. We're 95% built out, and everybody would agree the other part that we're not developing are wetlands and environmental sensitive areas. And so if we could redevelop and have homes that fit within that suburban feel, I'm for that. I'm absolutely for that. But what I'm not for is these mandates coming from, but by the way, that's my job as mayor, and that's our job as council members. That's not the governor's job. The governor's not doing a good job as governor. Don't come in and try to tell us how to do our job in Huntington Beach. So with that, I'll end on that note. Thank you all for being here. If you have follow-up, please. Jen Carey is our press person, and we really appreciate you come out to our council meeting on the 21st, and thank you for being here.